You know, right, this one here, I'm going to call this one Dance for Joy. And I'm going to tell you why in a minute. But, you know, before I do, I was thinking, for some reason, well, no, man, I gotta put, well, I took a shower and I brushed my teeth and shaved and made coffee. And so, and I looked up this song that I referenced last time, you know, Superstition. I didn't remember, you know, who sang it or anything like that. The song just came up in my mind during my last talk. And I looked it up on YouTube. And I played it, and Stevie Wonder. And, you know, he's blind just like Ray Charles was blind. You know, blind people, you know, if you lose one of your sensing abilities, you know, you got, you know, your 5 senses, you know, touch, hearing, tasting, smelling, and seeing. And if you lose one, like if you lose your sight, you know, your other sensitivities will become stronger. That's why they invented Braille. You read by putting your fingers across the little dots on the page, and you can actually feel all them little dots, and then you can read. See, yeah, I went to undergraduate school with a guy. He was in a car accident, and he was studying to be a doctor. He lost his sight in a car accident, and so I know a little bit about, you know, what it's like to be blind. Not because I was ever blind myself, but, you know, through the experience of another. And let's call it a vicarious experience. You gotta be a little empathetic, you know, if you're gonna engage in that. But so I went for some clothes, you know. Yeah, my mom made this for me. Hey, I used to be part of the camping fraternity, frontiersman camping fraternity. I used to work with little kids and stuff like that. I kind of grew up and all that, you know. And this is my Pioneer Handbook. I had that when I was a little kid. You know, I grew up, I was a pioneer. I was a Royal Ranger. I became a pioneer. Yeah, I went through Cub Scouts and Boy Scouts, but then this was with the church, you know. They had their own form of it. They take their children out to the camps and stuff like that and experience nature. It was like to be back in the frontiersman days and stuff like that, and you know. And then I come across this other book as I was looking in my closet. It is A Theology of Liberation. I read that for a class in graduate school. Liberation theology. Well, you know, after my mom became a Christian and my dad became a Christian, and then subsequently a lot of the other family members, you know, my relatives became Christian. From being a Catholic to what they call being a Christian. You know, Catholics are Christians too, but in a different form of Christianity. And in a Catholic, you know, church, you know, a lot of times there are masses and gatherings, you know, a lot of it is done in Latin. You don't even know what they're saying, and it has a mystique about it, and you trust it. You know, you say your rosary, go to confession. Priest will tell you how many Hail Marys to say, how many Our Fathers to say, and you count it on the beads on the rosary as you go along. That's what the rosary's for. And but in the Assemblies of God, where, you know, we started, you know, they had 16 fundamental doctrines that you had to abide by if you wanted to be a member of the Assemblies of God Church. And I used to have them printed on a card, you know, membership card or whatever, list of the 16 doctrines and stuff. And you know, one of the rules was, I think it was, you couldn't go to movies, and you couldn't dance. You know, you couldn't go to dances. They thought that was of the devil, as I recall. All right. Yeah, probably modified things since then, because how could they not? But you know, one of them was, you know, don't dance. Well, you know, that particular church I'm thinking of, people didn't dance in the spirit. But when I was younger, like around the 3rd grade and stuff like that, you know, I really started attending the Assemblies of God Church in St. John, Indiana, with my dad. There used to be a guy who used to get up and dance in the spirit during worship service or during prayer or something like that, you know. We always prayed, you know, for a half hour at the altar after the preacher was done preaching his sermon. And people get filled with the Holy Spirit and talking in tongues and singing in the spirit, you know. And I mean, I've seen my aunts and my mom, you know, sing in the spirit. You know, it's very beautiful. And dancing in the spirit too. And so you see, the thing is, you take that concept, dancing in the spirit. Well, when you dance, you know, a lot of dance is kind of, you got to learn the steps and everything. Like when I went to, I wanted to learn how to dance a little bit better, you know, when I was a little bit older and stuff. I took at least one dance class, you know, that I remember. I remember the lady teaching me how to move and stuff, you know, and she said I was too stiff. Well, I guess I'd kind of always been a little bit stiff. I've always been kind of stoic, you know. My defenses and stuff like that kind of made me stoic, you know. You have to look that word up if you don't know what it means. And so yeah, it was just giving a little experience of, you know, me. I mean, when I was young, I was always frightened to get out on the dance floor. I was scared to get out and dance, you know. If you could ask a girl to go dance with you and stuff, well, that'd be a big deal. And I was always afraid to get out on the dance floor. I didn't know how to dance or anything. I didn't know what that could do. And I wish I had somebody early on, you know, just engage me in dancing and stuff, because now I realize and understand and believe that dancing is a very good thing to do. And I encourage you to dance, you know, even if you don't know how to dance. And I plan on showing you, you know, like, I don't know how to dance either, but I can dance because it comes from your spirit, you know, really, you know. That's where dancing comes from. It comes from your spirit. So this is an expression that, this is like I'm doing right now. Like I'm winging it. Like when I'm talking on my phone right now, I'm winging it. It's like a dance for me. Hey, I don't know how to dance. I ain't got nothing planned. I mean, yeah, I do know how to talk and everything, but you know, I'm just saying, you know, I'm kind of winging it. And that's why you get out on the dance floor, you know, you kind of wing it. you don't know what you're gonna, you don't know what you're gonna do. You just do. You know how you're gonna move. You just move, and you get better at it. I like to watch. There's one song, "Don't Bring Me Down," and I've seen it a couple occasions, and I mark them like I like them and everything. I save them and stuff like that, and tell it so I can watch again later and stuff. And because they, you know, there's always women dancing. I mean, the women are always the best dancers. I don't know why, but they are. Michael Jackson was a good dancer. You know, Fred Astaire, he's a good dancer. You know, there are a lot of men dancers, good dancers, but it seems to me that women can really dance. I don't, you know, because I don't know, because who they are. You know, but you know, I was thinking, about, the concept of, and the reality and the experience of dancing in the spirit, dancing for joy. When I started thinking dancing for joy, I started thinking about, the girl that I think about a lot named Joy. And I was thinking even about her today. I don't know why. Yeah, but something deep in my heart tells me, I don't know. I don't try to bring anything up in my mind. These things come up, and I, respond to them one way or the other. And always got the limits and the boundaries of what we can do and everything. But your inner life is magical, and don't ever forget that. Your inner life is magical. A lot of proof behind that statement. But so anyway, I looked up superstition, and then that people were dancing. And I started dancing my own self. So I realized I know how I can dance. Some people, like there was one blues player, well, B.B. King. He never drank alcohol. He's a great blues player. He didn't smoke or drink alcohol. Somebody told him when he was younger, something, but he never did. And then, but there's another blues player, I can't remember what his name was, but I watched a documentary, and he was talking, and he said he was always shy. He couldn't look at the audience when he was playing. He was too afraid, make him freeze up. But so somebody told him, "Well, here, you take a drink of this, before you go out there on stage. That'll help you." And it's a little bit of wine, and he said it'll loosen him right up. He was able to perform and play freely, without the constraints of being shy. When I had epilepsy when I was a kid, I remember I was sitting on the bench. We just got off the merry-go-round, and I was sitting there on the bench with my dad. I asked him why I had to take this medicine. Why do I got to take this medicine every day? And he told me because I was shy. It wasn't because I was shy. Medicine probably made me more shy. I don't know, made me a little bit more sleepy, but it wasn't because I was shy. I don't know why he said that, but I kind of always felt like I was shy. I always was shy, a little bit afraid of stuff. When I was very young, and that's why probably I don't know. I don't want to go into that, but so sometimes you feel a little bit shy to get out on the dance floor or something, and you should be free. That's why I think liberation theology. You can get liberation from even the Bible. You have whole theology behind liberation. Liberation of the human spirit and liberation of human dignity. Liberation from slavery, liberation from addiction, liberation from whatever you need liberation from. But I just wanted to show you real quick Stevie Wonder. I listened to Superstition, and then after that, another song with Stevie Wonder came up, and him and Eric Clapton doing something together when he was older. And I'm just, I'm gonna just show a real quick clip of this here, and then I'm gonna put it over to. I have to pause my phone and everything. Put it over to Superstition, but this is. Anyway, I hope I got it in there. That was Stevie Wonder and Eric Clapton. I want to pause this. And so this is Stevie Wonder now. Let's see. I love it. All right, so yeah, I don't know. When I hear that, you know, my heart just like a thermometer, it just goes up. Elevated into a higher space, higher realm of being happiness, joy. I don't know why that girl comes into my mind every time I think of joy. I can't help think of joy without thinking of joy. Well, look, I realize what a nerve-wracking event it is to get out on the dance floor and dance, or even dance in your own house. You know, even have somebody watch you. You know, it might be a little bit scared, you know, stuff like that. But you don't have to be, because somebody see you dance. Hey, I see the life of God. I see the happiness of God. Look, it's important to express yourself, and dancing is a good way to express yourself and release energy and get energy. And what you do is you enact stuff that's inside, you know. What I'm talking about, you know, the spiritual stuff, the stuff that's inside that is too deep for words. No, you know, I don't know why it is easy for me to dance to this. I'm just going to show you how I do it real quick, you know, because I showed you how I learned how to speak in tongues. Well, and there's another form of expression too. I've seen it in David Gilmour from Pink Floyd. I think he was doing some of the old band's tunes. I can't remember what it was, but there was 3 ladies on there, and each one of them, it took turns singing to the music, but they weren't singing words. See, they were singing sounds. They were singing like sounds, as I remember, and to the music, but they weren't using words. But they were using their voices, and they were using sound. See, but it wasn't words. And it was beautiful. It's beautiful because, see, what that does, just like dance, it goes down to a layer of expression that, you know, it's at the spiritual level. Okay? No. Don't ever let anybody tell you the spirit is not true. It is true. They even call it alcohol. They used to call alcohol spirits. You know, buy a bottle of spirits. Because, you know, sometimes the spirit of a person will come out more when they're drinking. Some people, they call them like angry drunks. Like they get drunk or something, they get angry. Yeah, that's because that's part of their spirit. Yeah, I've never been an angry drunk. I'm thankful for that. But later in my mom's years, you know, she became an angry drunk. Like she used to drink vodka, and every time she got drunk, she'd get angry at how her life didn't work out, angry at, you know, her husband didn't love her, stuff like that. I don't want to go into all that because this is not really the way I want to remember my mom. You know, I just remember the good side of my mom, but everybody goes through pain and tragedy and loss, and it can put a dark cloud around your thinking. Right? And sometimes it's hard to break free. But that's not the point. Oh, it could be the point. Dancing. If you learn how to dance, it can maybe help you out. And oh, hey. So look, I want to show you how. I'm going to show you how I look. I don't know how to dance or nothing. All right. I'm just going to kind of show you, just so to see, like, I can do it. You can do it. Okay. Because I did a little bit earlier today. I don't know, but every part of the song elicits kind of different movements and stuff. At least for me, I don't know how to dance. I've already said that 100 times now, but I know how to feel. I'm gonna turn this on. I'm just gonna show you a little bit, maybe. So there you go. Right. Ready? Okay. Just a little bit. But I was saying, you gotta get into it. You gotta get into it, Look, there are a lot of things in life, you gotta get into. You gotta get into your lover. You gotta get into your mom. You gotta get into your dad. You gotta get into your guitar. Touch the place where people live, deep down in their spirit. See? Get in touch with them and find out, what it's really all about. I might call this one, what's it really all about? Well, I think the only thing it's really all about is the dance. And, still pointing the turning world. There's a dance. All right, bye.